Hello everybody. In the last video, I talked about the weather API, so let's use this to make an application of our own. The first thing you need is an API key. I'm on weatherapi.com. You'll probably have to sign up for an account depending on what API you're using. There's a bunch of them out there. I'm just using this one. You also have some paid tiers so you can get extra features and stuff, but we're just using the free one for now. I got my API key here, so just copy and paste this. Alright, so we're in VS Code. Already made a folder here called weather app and my file app.py. First things first, I'm going to create a virtual environment. If you don't know what that is, it's basically just an isolated environment for Python to run so you can install packages just for that project in that folder only. So type python -m venv for virtual environment and then call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it venv. Once it's done, it will create a folder called whatever you named it. And inside, you'll want to find the scripts folder and find the activate.ps1 script. Copy the path and just paste it in. Control-Shift-V. So now it's activated. So now we can install Python packages just in this folder. First thing we're going to want to install is requests. So pip install requests. And we're going to want to import that in our app.py. We're also going to want to import prettyprint or pprint. So import pprint. First thing to do is to create a variable for our API key from before. So API key equals, it's going to be a string, and then paste it in here. Next, we're going to create a variable for the city. So do city equals, and it's going to be equal to the input of the user, whatever the user types when you run the program. So do input, this will be the message you see. So enter a city. Next, we're going to create a variable to represent the URL of the API, which you will find in the documentation for whatever API you're using. So do weather_URL equals, this is a string as well. Alright, I'm on weatherapi.com and I'm in the documentation. So I went to find the request URL, which is right over here. Basically all you need is the base URL and then one of these, whichever you like. We're going to do the current weather, so I'm going to have, so it's going to be the base URL / current JSON, but you can change it to one of these if you want some other data instead. Down here is the request parameters for your URL. The only things you really need to know is key and queue, but I'll get into that in a second. Right now, we really just need the base URL. So like I said, we have the base URL / current JSON, but right now we have to add the request parameters. So start with a question mark to mark the start of the query string in the URL. And remember those two required parameters, key and queue? Yeah, we're going to have to do key equals, and that's going to be our API key variable, but that won't work right now because this is a regular string. So we're going to make this an F string, curly braces, and then we can pass in that API key variable. So that's our key, and do an ampersand Q. This is going to be our search. So what we're going to search for with this API key we're using, which is also going to be our city variable. So the same thing again, just curly braces and pass in a variable. So this is going to search this URL using our API key that we set, and it's going to search for the city, whatever city we enter, which will be equal to the city variable. Now the URL is good, so now we can just send a request to this URL and see what we get. So create a variable called response to store the response of our request. It will be equal to requests.get and pass in the weather URL. And now we'll print the response to see what we get. So print response, response.json. Now we're going to run this file for the first time to see what we get. Python app.py, enter a city, New York. Now we have the current weather data for New York. You can see it looks like a dictionary. We have the location, the name, New York, region New York, maybe country, all that stuff. So if you see, it's kind of messy and a little bit hard to read. So this is where pprint comes in, or prettyprint. Change this print statement to pprint.pprint to prettyprint this, save it, run it again, and now it's a lot more organized. Alright, so it gets a response from this request, so we can get rid of this for now. And we're going to make a variable for this JSON data, so let's call it weather data equals response dot JSON. I'm actually going to re-add that print statement. I don't even know why I deleted it, to be honest, but pprint.pprint weather data would be the same thing because we just assigned a variable to it now. The most important stuff for this case, what we want in our app, is the condition, the text of the condition, so partly cloudy, the temperature down here, temperature Fahrenheit or temperature Celsius. If you want to access individual items within the JSON data, it's the same as a dictionary. So in this case, we would do print weather data, square brackets. We're going to access the location, and the name is inside the location. Once again, the name is inside the location here. I also want to print the temperature in Fahrenheit, which is inside of current. So in this case, print weather data and do current temp underscore F. I'm also going to do the condition. So the same thing, print weather data, current condition, and do text. Going to comment this out. Gonna run this again. See, it printed the location's name, the temperature in Fahrenheit, and the condition text. I don't like that decimal in the temperature, so I'm gonna change that to an int. So if I actually just wrap this in int, that should work. See? Before it was a float, now it changed to an int. I can format this as well by starting an F string and writing it is, start the curly braces with the closing curly brace, and then the closing quotation mark. Save it. We're going to try to run it one more time. It is 75. Now I want to add the degree symbol so you can tell what it actually means. So right after the last curly brace, if you have a number pad on your keyboard, hold down Alt and 0176 and it'll put up the degree symbol. Little trick for you. Alright, so print it is int weather data, current temperature, degrees Fahrenheit. There we go. You can access any of the data in the same way, obviously. You can add one more for the humidity. So that's in current. So again, same thing. Print F string, and say humidity, do a colon, curly braces, weather data, square bracket, current, square bracket again, humidity, and percentage. Comment this out again. I'm gonna run it again. And we have everything neatly formatted. You can also change the city. Do LA, maybe Houston. There you go. So lastly, we're going to do a little bit of error handling. So if you make a typo, or if the link doesn't exist, something like that goes wrong when you're calling the API, we're going to have our own way of handling it. So up here, we're going to have a try block. So type try, and we're going to want to indent all of this stuff so it's part of the block. So it's going to try to run all this code, except, so if something goes wrong, exception as E. So the exception's name will be E. We'll print a message. Print F string, an error occurred, and pass in E. So it's going to try this code, and if it works, everything will just work normally. And if anything goes wrong, it will print out this message with the error. So we didn't really change much other than that, so it's going to run the same. But we'll run it one more time just for fun. Python app.py, enter a city. LA. There you go. Now that is how you build a simple weather app for your terminal using Python and a live API. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more, because I'm going to be turning this into a full website, not just a script that you have to keep running. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.